Anyway, thank you for being here. If you can, name one takeaway from these scriptures from the last week and this week. These scriptures, one is a parable of Jesus, and the other one is something from one of the letters of Paul. Who would like to start?
Hello?
Is this on, Marty? Can you all hear
It should be good, yeah.
You can't hear?
No?
Yes, it's fine.
It's fine, yeah, all
You
right.
can't hear in the back? No. Okay, so it's not fine.
So I have to use my diaphragm?
We're good.
Theater, that taught me that one. So yeah, takeaway. I kind of have a conglomerate here, just from the first and then the second, but blessings are to be shared, right? It's just when it rains, it pours sometimes, but that's not always true for everyone. Take only what is needed, because someone else will always need it more. You don't know everyone's situation, you just know your situation. And then we kind of get into the 2 Corinthians. Your heart is most important. Where's your heart at? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Different people have different resources. It kind of goes into, seasons of abundance, seasons of scarcity. Everybody's at a different season. And then as far as resources, that can be time, money, skills. What do you have an abundance of? And then what I really like towards the end of the 2 Corinthians, it doesn't mean pressure for the person giving. Give what you can, but don't put yourself in a bad situation if you can avoid it. And then fair balance. We live in a time where fair balance is not there, and we're all just standing around questioning why that is.
I think in the Luke passage, there's the implication that life and even happiness does not consist of abundance of possessions. The rich man was clutching his wealth and for his own pleasure and not being rich toward God. And it would seem that the offering to God was scarcity in that context. So it comes down to be, again, as Colin indicated, a matter of the heart. In 2 weeks, our next Sermon on the Mount study deals with Matthew 6, which talks about not storing up for yourselves treasures on earth. And it states in 6:21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. In the Corinthians passage, I was struck by that juxtaposition of extreme poverty and abundant joy dwelling side by side. That's not logical, is it? And yet, because of their generosity, it's clear, because it outright says that the gift that is acceptable to God is according to what one has and not what one lacks. And that's abundance versus scarcity mindset for sure.
So, can you
Yes,
hear me?
sir. Yeah.
Is mine working? Okay. So going along with what both of Colin and Jan said, one of the key takeaways that I had is more of just the eagerness with which we give is important, more than actually what we give. But we should have that desire to help others and be eager to do so, even when we don't have a lot ourselves. We should be always looking for a way to help others. So that's kind of one of the takeaways I had in addition.
Appreciate all of that. So great reflection on those passages. They seemed to end up being a really good set of passages, kind of a twin set of passages, if we want to think about abundance and scarcity and how that plays out, how we allow that to play out in our lives. So thank you for that. And on that theme, getting more personal, and I want to watch our time, but I'm very interested in, from each of you, how you've experienced in a personal way both the reality of scarcity and the reality of abundance, and how you responded to that, how you grew through that, any reflections you have on those experiences which come to every life.
All right. Question 2. So Victoria and I have been together for, seems like ever, 13 years at this point. And we've kind of, that we met in high school, made it through college, started life together, whole big 13 years. But back when we were pregnant with Cammie, we got our first apartment. It was the first time out on our own. We didn't have a lot. And we kind of reached the point where we zeroed out our bank accounts and we're just like, what do we do at this point? So I had a couple bonds that my dad bought when I was really young. I cashed a few of those in, got our accounts back in order, and then I don't even know what we did after that. We just kind of really tightened things up as far as finances go, and we just made it work, and we got through it. Now, obviously, we weren't giving money away at that time and doing what the church demanded. Depends on what church you ask, but we made it through, and that was our time of scarcity.
Scarcity first. Okay. When I was growing up, there were not a lot of resources for extra things. Our mother didn't begin working until Phyllis was in first grade and I was 13. But twice a year, the neighbor across the street would bring a large Goodwill bag full of clothing. She had a daughter who was 2 years older than I was, and so I got clothes from them. Now, this woman worked for an attorney downtown who was well-known, so she was dragging down some good money, and her husband was doing well as well. But during that time, I never felt ashamed by wearing those clothes. When the college years rolled around, there were no funds for me to go live on campus and have that experience. So my parents allowed me to stay at home, and I commuted to college, and I took out college loans in order to get my education. And that was a generous thing on their part for me to be able to do that. I took Mother to work in the morning, went to school, and picked her up at night. When I signed my first teaching contract, it looks like you just won the lottery when you go from a few dollars to whatever that was. But of course, that's not what it looks like today. But my parents continued to let me live at home because I had college loans to pay off. I had a car payment, and then I also had to start my master's degree and pay for it as I went along, and I only had a 5-year window to complete the master's degree. But anyway, I felt like I was blessed because of that. When I signed my first contract, I decided then to start tithing, even in spite of the extra money that I was going to have to give away, because I was an active member of Cumberland United Methodist Church right down the street. And I felt like that God had blessed me so that I needed to give back. And as an adult, I've never resented or felt robbed because of that scarcity. I never counted up I never counted up and thinking, oh, the world owes me something, and so now that I have money, I can just spend it at will. I live frugally as a teacher, and I'm just grateful for all that God has given me.
So growing up as a child, we were pretty tight. My mom was a single parent, and my dad, we're on good terms now, but he didn't send any money regularly at all. So she really struggled. And then when I was in 7th grade, she decided she was going to go back to college. And in order to do so, she really had to focus on that. And so she was like, I'm not going to barely work at all. We have to move into subsidized housing. We're going to go on food stamps, all this stuff. She had this long-term goal So she's like, it's going to be 2 years. You guys got to suck it up. We got to change school districts. We got to do all this stuff. And so we were really, really poor for those 2 years. But she got her degree. She became a teacher. I just watched her work hard. During that period, we got free lunch at school. My sister would skip it because she was embarrassed. I did not care. I was like, free lunch for me, that's cool. So that was a rough time. And then I ended up moving out of my own home before senior year. So I lived on my own starting at like 17. I lived with people for my senior year because it's like high school, but then I had an apartment as soon as I was done, and I didn't go to college right away because I was overwhelmed by everything on my own, and just worked really hard in the industry that I was working in, food service. But it was tight always, like, I'm just supporting myself as a young teenager. And then went through college eventually, and got my job. And then I just felt, like you said, like I had hit some sort of like huge milestone because I got a federal job, and I was like, well, this is going to be great. It's going to set me up. And, I got promoted right away for a few years and just really felt blessed after that point. But during the time of scarcity, I would say in my whole life, as soon as I could start working and I had a job during my teen years, I was active in our church, but my mom wouldn't take us. Like, our friends would come and get us. I mean, if I didn't have friends that would come and pick us up for church, I never would have went. And our pastors would come and get us sometimes. And we recently, this is like a sidebar, but we recently reached out to them because I was like, I wonder if I can look them up and like just thank them, because that was like, they didn't have to come pick us up like to go to church. But anyway, I would try to tithe like as a teenager, because I felt like the urge to give back, but it was like very little. But I mean, I went through all that period of time, and I feel like, much like Jan said, it has impacted me as an adult. I don't feel like now that I have money, I should blow it. I am very frugal. It's the reverse. Like, I just still, and it's not like I'm hoarding it either, but I'm just like, we don't need to buy that. And I just have like that's still useful to me, I'm going to keep it mentality. And I think that's just from the way I was raised all those years with nothing. So that's my...
So you did a great segue to the abundance side of it too. You had at least a couple of stories in there of abundance experience. Just people looking after you and helping you and supporting you, and that's gold. And I wish we had more time to get into some more of that. I guess what I want to do is ask the follow-up question about just who you are and how you think. I think I know, but I want to ask, do you feel like you're more abundance thinkers or scarcity thinkers? And what would you want to say about that?
I just simply say I hope that everything that I've shared so far shows abundance rather than scarcity.
For me, it's fairly recent. For those of you who like The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, my heart has grown 3 sizes too big recently. So I've gone from a scarcity mindset into an abundance, and that's through some great people in my life showing me what that can look like, and then actually we doing it, or us doing it.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, I definitely feel like I have abundance thinking, which is, I feel like it's almost contradictory when you grow up a certain way. But I always felt like money doesn't really matter. Like, and I say that all the time, like, money's just money, like, we'll get more of it. Like, I don't care about any of it. I really don't. I mean, we need it to live and whatever, but I will gladly help other people because I'm like, I don't know. I just know what it feels like to not, and I don't want people to feel that way. So, and I also give time. I feel like I give too much time, but the time thing I need to reel in. But I just always am like, we can get more later. It doesn't matter.
I think my retirement years have been my abundant years. I was fortunate enough to be able to retire early, 10 years early. And so that was after 33 years of teaching middle school. And my joke has always been, I wanted to retire early enough with enough sanity left to enjoy the rest of my life after teaching middle school. But anyway, I think these have been the abundant years. And my school system offered a generous severance package, agreed to pay my health, dental, and vision insurance for 10 years until I could go on to Medicare, so why not? But even missing out on those 10 years of extra credit for Social Security, it's more than been abundantly made up through tithing. I don't miss that. I never even ran the figures about how much more money I could be having today if I taught 10 more years. The enduring value was that I was able to have a second career, which was to serve the church, to work with churches in the region before I was actually hired as a part-time person, and then also the other outlets where I was able to work with churches. I'm blessed.
I appreciate all of that. Boy, and Sarah, I really agree with you about it. It seems like a contradiction. I call it a holy contradiction, abundance thinking. It doesn't seem logical by many standards. And it seems to me that Jesus and the Apostle Paul both understood this. In the two stories, they understood the improbability of extreme generosity in the midst of scarcity. And yet we see it all the time, and we look at statistics. In statistics, rich people are less generous. The richer you are, the less generous you are. That just seems to be the way the world works. So good for the people who find a way to be generous, even out of some level of need. It seems to me that Jesus and Paul want to trumpet that. I don't want to trumpet it in the sense of everybody, should always give more. That's an individual matter. It's a spiritual matter, a decision. And yet there's something about it that is extremely inspiring, the generosity of those who probably have many other choices and maybe important choices for all of their funds. I guess trying to wrap up here, and it's typical. I wrote maybe a few more questions than there was any way we were going to be able to get with because of your really fulsome answers, which I appreciate. Let me ask you this, because I'm always curious about this. How do you and your household, how do you discern what to give financially? And I know that's a personal matter, but whatever you're willing to share, I would appreciate it.
Oh boy. So for our household, Victoria is the one who kind of discerns what we're doing. But what we're really looking at is, what does the community need? Right now, resisting the powers that are at the moment, it's through food. The more food we can get out there, the longer we can keep people strong to keep fighting against that. Other seasons, we give time, we give skills, and we give those where they're needed and when they're wanted.
For me, it's my determination to tithe, and that remains tied to the mindset of abundance and gratitude for all God has done for me. But also in practical terms, I ask this question, and maybe we should all ask this question every year. Why do I want to keep the church doors open? Now, my answer may sound radical to some people, but it comes from a deep, deep place of conviction. I'm not interested in keeping our church doors open so that there will be a place for my funeral to be held. I am interested in giving my tithe so that others who are spiritually confused like I was, or who were in a dark place like I was, will find right here a place where Jesus meets them and helps transform their lives into something of beauty and purpose. Amen.
I think that's amazing. I love that. I think it's, we just decided we're going to give this flat percentage every week to the church because what we believe in what the church is doing. So we believe in our church. We believe in everything here. And then we, throughout the year, like if a need arises elsewhere, we talk about that and we give to that. So, so we have like our base standard giving amount, and then we would change it as needs arise. Sometimes, it's helping outside of the church. We have friends going through a situation, they could use some money, so we might send them money. We've done that a few times. We adopt a child across the way. We have just different ways we give, and it's not only through the church, but we have our standard giving. But yeah, I just feel really compelled to give, and it's just about, I don't know, just it's not, I don't need a funeral either. It's not anything like that. It's just, I want the church to be able to do its mission and continue to bless others.
Thank you so much. Because we've run out of time, I just want to ask you to, if there's anything, that last question, what else, anything else on your heart and mind that you would really wish to share? So, friends, I give you the spirit of Cumberland First Baptist Church right here, the stewardship spirit of our congregation. Thank you.